Broadcasting from the campus of Salisbury University, this is WSDL Ocean City, NPR News Talk 90.7, putting Delmarva first. It's time for Delmarva Today with your host, Don Rush.
For years, there have been discussions about revitalizing the downtown area of Salisbury, from opening and closing the main drag to improving the streetscape to tax breaks. Welcome to Delmarva Today. This is Don Rush. But now there's a plan to sell off 3 of the city-owned parking lots that dominate parts of the downtown area. This idea is being pushed by Mayor Jim Ireton, who joins us this morning in the studio. And welcome to the station.
Thanks, Don. It's great to be able to talk again about downtown revitalization and how we're at a point now where we're going to get it done and stop talking about it.
Well, as a matter of fact, and that's why I've got you in here. Because, well, one of the new thing, at least for me, after having watched this thing for about 10 years, the idea of selling off the parking lots. Outline for me what the idea is behind selling those off and what kind of vision is there for those parking lots?
Right. The parking lots have got to go. Waterfront property parking lots are just a thing of the past. They were designed in the 50s and 60s as places that was the thing to do at the time in public works. It's not the thing to do now. Right now, you're supposed to have mixed use developments on these areas that are waterfront, getting people over to parking garages, getting them parking in a centralized location. It is necessary for Salisbury to take the next step in its revitalization of its downtown and to do this because we have proven now that we can support restaurants. We have proven we can support Third Fridays, a Latino festival, the Salisbury Festival, a New Year's Eve festival. The only thing left to do, Don, is heads and beds. And none of my plan for the downtown area is new. It is about getting those lots and getting people living on those lots. That's what's important.
So what are we going to describe, first of all, where those lots are in relationship to what most people consider downtown, and then what do you envision to be in there?
Well, parking lot number 10, of course, is up at the crossroads where 50 and 13 cross one another, across from the Royal Farm Store on Route 50. Parking lot number 1, of course, is in between the library and the First Shore Federal Building, and then parking lot 11 is behind the library. So those are the 3 that we're most interested in somebody doing something with. Again, what needs to go there? A mixed-use development that has people living and businesses working and people coming to the downtown right there. Top couple floors have to be apartments and condos. The bottom floors have to be commercial shops, those sorts of things, and hopefully some public space thrown in there for the public to use, park, green space, things of that nature. Again, I think, what I believe we're already revitalizing. When you take a look at the number of businesses that are now open, the number of restaurants that are now open, you take a look at some of the dead wood that's falling away. Yes, some people have left, and it's because their business model doesn't work in 2014. So they've got to go. And then you take a look at our parking garage across the street from parking lot number 1 and how it's only basically at most a third filled. And you say, those people who are parking in parking lot number 1 can come over and park in the parking garage. We can save some of the parking lot on the outer edges of some of these. So again, we're not talking about doing revitalization. I can sort of hear that in your voice. I've been talking about this for 10 years. Well, we're doing it now, and it's time for us to get this job done. The only thing left after proving we can do all those other events and all those other businesses, whether they be the Feldman's revitalization, whether they be the Ethan Allen Building revitalization, the Firehouse revitalization, whether it be the 5th anniversary of Third Friday, all those things are wonderful. The only thing left for the boom, the only thing left that will really transform our downtown is if we have more people living there. So the goals are simple. Let me give you those. The goals are to increase the residential population by 750. They are to increase our commercial space downtown by 100,000 square feet. They are to have 300 more people working downtown over the next several years. All of those, we have to get rid of 25% of our impervious surface. We're going to ask our residents to pay a stormwater utility fee. We got to get rid of the largest stormwater runoff places. And 2 of those 3 parking lots. One is on the biggest cross on the Delmarva Peninsula, where Route 13 crosses Route 50, somewhere between 65,000 and 85,000 car trips a day from those 2 roads. And the other 2 are waterfront property.
What kind of businesses do you envision going into
Well, they're
this area?
businesses that will support the people who are living
Right.
upstairs. You put 750 more people living downtown, they're going to need a place to get more pizza. They're going to need a place to get more coffee. They're going to support the businesses that are already there. These are 750 people and their relatives and their guests and the people come in and their parents who come to visit that will be potential customers from Market Street, Rody Joe's, Cellar Door, Mojo's, Sushi Kampai, all of those things. So, let's talk brass tacks. What we're dealing with right now is, oh my God, they're going to change something. It's time to get over that. It's time to get over that. We're going to do our best to make sure people have safe places to park, affordable places to park, and places to park within 1 or 2 blocks of where they're going. Other than that, I can't help you. I mean, let's just, if we really want to do this interview and talk about what's going to happen, you're going to go find, you or somebody from your station and some other media station's going to go find somebody in parking lot number 1 who's going to raise a ruckus because they're not going to have the closest parking spot to the front door of the library. And if that's where this discussion goes, then we will have failed with a large vision of the change for Salisbury. I believe we can't afford to fail this time. We have come so far. We have had elections. People have made decisions. It's time to start acting like a city, not a small town stuck in a big city trying to figure out how to rearrange our lives to walk 1 block.
Let me ask you this, sort of historical, sort of reaching back, and you're a long-time Salisbury resident. How did it come about that we have these parking lots in the first place? I mean, my understanding is there were actual businesses in these parking lots at one time. What was the rationale?
The great part about parking lot number 1 is that it was automobiles. They sold automobiles there because remember, Camden Street's going to come down that street, 100 years ago, go across a little bridge and then up Camden Avenue. I mean, it was the way south out of town. There's the great part about parking lot number 1 and 11 is that there was never anything really on top of it that could cause problems underneath of it today. So when the 70s came and we were gonna redevelop a little bit and people wanted a place to park, we put them on these large spaces because people wanted, the automobile was the most important thing. What you're finding with sustainable communities and what the state wants and what the state will help us with, it's walkable. It's got green space. It is not concrete parking lots. So that's what the state is willing to help us with for the health of our residents, for green space and places for children to play and outdoors. We convert these because we have the spaces for these people to park in already.
How does this contrast to, say, for instance, envisioning something like downtown being sort of a tourist attraction as opposed to what you just seem to be describing, at least for these parking lots, as being something that is sort of an economic environment all of in itself. It's an ecosystem, an economic ecosystem that part of what you're looking at. Because you're saying, well, we need the shops because somebody's going to be living there, or that we need the stores. How does that fit into the idea that perhaps downtown should be a destination, an entertainment destination, for example? Or does it?
Well, that's exactly, and that's why you talk about what we did, what the city council president and I were able to do with the firehouse. Everybody's raising their arms. They've given it away. They've not given it away. We sold that building for what someone would give it. It's not the accessible amount that's important. It's about how much you can get for that building when you go to sell it. So it's the same thing with the parking lots. If there is a venue, which we believe now that the firehouse will become an entertainment venue, then that's going to be someplace that people have a destination for. I think that places like Berlin, and congratulations to them on the coolest small town in America, they have that identity. Whether it's antiques or brew pubs or stormwater utility before ours, whatever it is for them, they have it. But when you are 7 miles from a place that has 400,000 people in it for 4 months a year, I guess you can get that. Salisbury's identity downtown is going to be a place where people shop, where people eat, and where people go to see art or performances. That's what we are. We're not. I believe the mistake that we make is that we want to treat Salisbury like it's got 3,000 people like Berlin, and it doesn't. It's got 33,000 people, and it needs to act like a larger city. So a performing arts venue, a place where SWAC and the arts community and AIG and the people over at Chesapeake East can bring those things together like they do at the Salisbury Festival. You have arts on the plaza. That needs to be a permanent situation where people can always come see those things. You take a look at the All First building, now going to be a ballet emporium, a place where you practice, you learn, you perform, and people are coming there all the time. You take a look at the city center now, almost 100% filled. You're saying make it a destination. I say people are already coming, and now I want more people to come.
So, who are the kinds of people who are making bids on these kinds of properties who have this kind of vision?
Well, we can't.
I know you can't identify individuals.
Let me switch that question a bit, and let me tell you who are the type of people who are going to take people up on building this. I think the university with its presence downtown for the first time, that's going to be huge. I think the hospital with the partnership with UMES, the University of Maryland at Baltimore, Salisbury University, when we talk about that medical school across the street in the Daily Times building over the next couple years, those are the type of people we want there. We want people who have determined that they want urban living. I cannot give people a parking space 3 feet from their booth in a restaurant like we can do up at the North End. But I don't think the North End people are the type we're trying to get downtown. I think we're talking about young people, educated people, health conscious people, bike riding people, kayak riding people, young people that are associated with the arts and the university. That's who I think we're going. And I think that there's also, to be honest with you, a market out there for older people, for senior citizens who do not want upkeep on their yard, who do not want to pay huge homeowners association fees to make sure that the common area is done. I think there's a possibility for some of that downtown as well, who want to be close to the library, who want to be close to AIG, who want to be close to the art galleries that the university has opened downtown. So I think the argument has been, should we be trying to get the people who are eating at Olive Garden? No, we should not. We should be marketing ourselves to people who are looking to downsize the amount of space they want to live in, who want a walkable place to get to a restaurant, a bar, a store, an art gallery, someplace where they can volunteer, and a place to get coffee. All of those things can be there.
Well, one of the things, because we were actually joking about it before we went on the air, which is there's this contrast between the mall up in the North End, the center at Salisbury, and downtown. And one of the things, as a matter of fact, somebody had shown me was a map. And if you overlay the center
take
of the
parking
mall,
lot number one.
That's right.
Put it on the mall. The mall still dwarfs that space. I have family members who walk the mall all the time, and I say to them, you could just come down and walk around parking lot number one, and they'll say, but it's a smaller space. So I think that it's clear that these places, the middle of that plaza, from all the other places around it that are destinations, are actually closer than the mall. But I don't want to discount the mall, and the North End is what it is. We gave the incentives, 15 years ago to get the big box companies to come, and guess what? People came, and they're still coming. Right now as we do this interview, those places are packed. Because people want those things. We now believe what people are looking for is a more urban area where they do not have to drive as much, where they can get good service in eclectic boutique style type places at an affordable price. What our job is at this point with whoever decides to develop, whoever gives us this plan for the development of those parking lots, what we've got to figure out how to do is make sure that we are offering a fair amount of incentives the way we did up at the North End, because that was successful. That was money well spent up at the North End. Now, what will the opponents call it? What word will it be? Come on now. Subsidies. That's what we're going to hear from the naysayers. So I'll just put that out there right now so that when you hear it, when you interview the naysayers, they'll go, your listeners will go, Jim said that's the word that they would use. It's a subsidy. There's so much going on right now that I don't believe we can afford not to strike while the iron is hot. We're going to do the Main Street Master Plan second phase from Division Street down to Route 13. All of that will be redone. It'll be made narrow. It'll better walking, slower traffic, time period to look like the plaza with the brick. We've made, I believe, myself and the city council majority have made the investments and the decisions that signal to the people who will build downtown that we are serious. The EDU free zone, a huge incentive for you to come back downtown. The square footage downtown is less than anywhere else on our footprint. Basically, we believe that the state will help us because this is in the Sustainable Communities designation. It is in the Enterprise Zone designation for job creation credits and tax deferments. It is in the Arts and Entertainment District. It is in it's infill construction. It's on water and sewer. It's not sprawl. I believe that when we go to the state with a plan, that they'll jump to help us out because this is exactly what you want. All I know is this, Don, is we've had 2 elections. People have spoken. We've had a council election. People have spoken. And it's time to start doing this.
Let me just follow up on something you just talked about in relationship to the mall to the north. That is, the sense I get is one is that you're not envisioning downtown to become any kind of competitor in the sense that the northern part, the mall does its thing with its particular patrons, and downtown does its thing with its own patrons. You don't
I think you're doing the traditional media divide and conquer. I don't think it's a division. I think it depends on what you want and when you want it.
I mean,
if I want carpet or if I want paint. If I want carpet or if I want paint, maybe I do go up to the Lowe's or the Home Depot. Maybe I do decide to go to the South End to Ace. It all depends on what you want and when you want it. If I want Pizza City that we're going to get when we go back to the office today, I do that. If I want a gourmet pizza or I want sushi, I'm going to go. If you want the Chinese buffet, you're going to go one place. If you want, eclectic sushi type things, you're going to go downtown. We have to stop thinking of narrowing people into these little pegs. And I don't want to do that because I think a destination, whether it be a commercial one, a residential one, an industrial one, is if that's what people want and you build what people want, they're going to come and they're going to park wherever they can to get it from you. So I think we've seen, because we've talked about in previous interviews, some businesses that did not work in downtown. We talked about the restaurant that came in before Rody Joe's. And you start the interview, the other media outlets start the interview with another business gone from downtown. You don't go and you don't say to that business owner, did you have enough capital? Did you do enough advertising? Did you do enough coupons? Rody Joe's is doing exactly what it should be doing in downtown, just had its 1-year anniversary because it has the capital to get the things on the radio and the coupons in the newspaper, all of those things to the customers it needs to get there. And it's brought a whole new generation of young people to downtown. And you know what? They don't mind parking in a parking lot that's right across the street.
Let me ask you, that's also the other contrast that I've
publicity, my fault. That's the word I was looking for. The money to sustain a business in downtown. These people have it. I believe that the people who are going to do the bridal shop in the Ethan Allen building are going to have that kind of capital to do it. Obviously, Mr. Gillis has that kind of capital. Obviously, his son has that kind of capital over in the firehouse. The people who own Sushi Kampai have that capital. Mojo's has that capital.
Now, the other contrast that I've always seen, particularly with the mall, when I became aware, I always asked myself, well, gee, why is it that you would wander around in a mall that's probably just as large, just inside, it's just as large as say downtown, and the echo that I get back is for myself is it's the environment. They design malls so that you can walk around and you want to stay forever. If I'm walking around downtown as it is right now, I don't get that sense that I want to stay there or wander around. For instance, I may say, for instance, go to Easton and then the whole down sort of area would have the shops. Yeah, well, then maybe that's something. I mean, I was just a couple of weeks ago, I was up in Hoboken of all places, and I was walking down the street and it was like, yeah, this is a street I might want to spend some time with. I don't get that sense about downtown as it currently is configured. How do you address that attractiveness, that I want to stay down here? I'm not just going, say, from one chunk sort of a building to another. I mean, how do you create that cohesiveness?
Well, I think, to be honest with you, is that you have to decide what it is that you want. What was it in Hoboken that made you walk? I mean, I don't know.
Right.
You know, I would say that we're not an antiques capital. We've got Season's Best down at the bottom, does a very brisk business that's, always open, always participating in Third Friday. That's great. Yeah, there's some spaces between, say, Division Street and Baptist Street where it does sort of become Lawyer Mall.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But those are important people. Those workers and those people in those businesses are very important to the restaurants during the day. What I think is the transformation, because what I get the impression from your question and what we've talked about before is this, is that somehow you want it to go from the way it is right now to all of a sudden everybody is walking everywhere. There's everything that you need, and that is not the way this happens. The way this happens is over the past 5 years, Third Friday happening, getting people down there. The way this happens is the city council passing the EDU free zones, us hiring a business development consultant so that we can say to the property owners down there, what can we do to transform this into something that we want? We have brought so many people down there. The people who are opening up that ballet company are Third Friday people. And they look down there and they go, what a beautiful spot to do this in. Parents and kids can park right behind it. This has to be an evolving thing. You're not going to wake up one day, Don, and go, wow, this has everything I wanted in Hoboken, because that is simplifying the solution. So what I have tried to do, and it is not always easy, is, you have people call and they say, you need like a Watson Smokehouse downtown like it was when we were little. Watson Smokehouse is now where my niece lives in its apartments. So it's not going to be the same. So the question is what do you do in the interim while you are making this change, while people are clamoring, it's not there yet? Well, let's be clear, the difference in the demographic between here and Frederick. Let's be clear about the demographic between here and Berlin. Let's be clear about the differences in historical perspective of here as in anywhere else. It is going to be different from anywhere else, and its identity will come out of what we not allow to flourish, but what we are there hand in hand helping to flourish. Maybe it's bands, maybe it's performance, and it starts with the firehouse and about 110 seats, and it becomes a place where you have recording acts come. We have the expertise to get that job done. Not my expertise. I believe the expertise is out there with the people who own the building to do it. Maybe it ends up being something along the waterfront. Maybe we entice something like Survival Products to come down and use the floating dock and the river as the draw to sell those, the kayaks and things that they do sell to customers, and you can actually test drive it right there on the water. Maybe it is a combination of the expertise that will come with the medical school that the universities are talking about and that the Peninsula Regional is talking about. I believe right now that both Dr. Bell, Dr. Eschbach, and Dr. Nalepel are so completely on board with making sure that what they create there to help us in the community, maybe it's medical related. When we take a look at the Lower Eastern Shore and its high rates of cancer, heart disease, its lack of skin doctors, OBGYNs, primary care physicians, maybe we build something out off of that. What is Councilwoman Mitchell? The multipliers. What comes out of the things that work? I think sometimes on these interviews, you want me to come down here and say, there'll be a pizza shop, there'll be a hair salon, there'll be a place that is all has to take care of itself. The government can't get in the business of saying this is what you will build there. Our government, this government, Mr. Day's government, my government, is trying to set ourselves at the table with the private sector and say, what do you need to come down here? Because we are willing to help in any way possible that we can. We're making the investments, especially along Main Street, that show that we are serious about changing the way this place looks. But I can't say to you, Don, you're going to walk down the street and you'll be able to find a size 36, 34 pants at this price point. I don't know what it turns into, but I don't think the government should be saying what it should turn into. I think we should be creating a business environment that allows people to flourish. I'm sorry to sound like my good Republican friends. You know what I mean? This let's get out of the way, do what we can to help, and allow private enterprise to take its path.
Well, I mean, you're not facing really problems that most other cities face as well. As city leaders, it's not like you can put a store here and there because you have to obviously attract businesses. Which brings us to the issue you were talking about, subsidies and so on. I know over the past, I've looked at development of downtowns. And we had, in fact, at one point there were tax abatement programs. Mm-hmm. And what was interesting about the tax abatement programs in a number of cities is those cities that offered them, ultimately their downtowns did not particularly grow well. Other cities which did grow well. And the big difference in those studies was that the cities who flourished wasn't really about the tax breaks. It was about the infrastructure. It was about the labor force.
The
It was about
quality of
all
life.
those
All
things.
of those things.
Right.
That's right.
So now I know that you got, for instance, the equivalent dwelling units,
Mm-hmm.
right? That you want to forego. There's the enterprise zone, some tax breaks. How do you balance between, on the one hand, providing such incentives, but on the other hand, recognizing that the only real reason somebody's going to be coming downtown is because of that infrastructure, and they think that they're going to be able to either sell something or make a business down there. I mean, how? Because most businesses they're not really looking. I mean, they'll tell you they're looking for tax breaks, but really, they've already lined up. They've got an idea about what they want.
No, I would disagree with you. I would disagree with you. I would say that I think that's exactly what business owners are looking for, and that's been my explanation, my experience. Sorry,
Sure.
that when we talk to the Chamber of Commerce, they have said that this EDU free zone was the single biggest thing the city had done in decades to refocus people into the downtown. We have to offer those incentives because if you go up north, you have people coming from Delaware, Virginia, all of Maryland, Worcester County, Dorchester County. That is already established itself as the commercial center. What we've got to do is establish the downtown as a cultural, commercial, residential center. So how do we do that? I can't again say these are the types of commercial things. All I can say is, you know what? Here are some of the incentives that I can give business to come back down here, build it, and they will come. Councilwoman Mitchell did an incredible job the other day when we had the Envision Salisbury students down from the University of Maryland School of Architecture through Council President Day. An incredible day. And someone said, well, you shouldn't do anything with any of this until all the buildings are filled. Completely short-sighted. That sense of newness on one of those parking lots will ignite what happens in those older buildings. I'll give you an example. You've got several old bars from the 1970s sitting on the bottom floors of all of these buildings. You've got Chez Jean Pierre's, you've got not Little Jimmy's, I can't remember what the other one is, but they're underneath there and you can't do anything with them because the fire codes have changed, okay? And because no one has been in that space, it's not grandfathered into being able to be used. So how do you take a space like that in one of those downtown buildings and say to a business owner, this is a cool space, this is historic, what you can build here, the apartments that you can build here, how are we going to get them to do that instead of just going out along the edge where water and sewer is and say just build something new? Well, we know that it is cheaper per square footage to do something downtown. Mr. Gillis will tell you that right off the bat. So the city has to come in and say, what are we going to do with this building if none of this works for development right now? And that's where the incentives come in. That's where the EDU incentives come in. That's where, the city's revolving loan fund, again, $2.7 million over the last 30 years given out for people to redo things. You can take a look at the buildings up and down the plaza that have been redone with it. So, I don't necessarily believe that we should give away things, but those EDUs are coming from Linens of the Week that are already in the system, aren't going to be used. That property isn't going to use 300 EDUs from now on. That's creative. That's not a subsidy. That's being creative. We're not coming up with new EDUs for our system. We're just using ones that are already in the system that won't be used at that property. So I think that's incredible. Sustainable communities, enterprise zones, those are state designations that'll give you credits for creating new jobs. I think, the Daily Times is getting ready to do this huge Envision Salisbury thing where they tell us what it is they want us to do instead of we who live here deciding it. But I think the thing that you're going to hear most from people is jobs. And the amount of jobs that a development on any of these parking lots that is going to create through concrete, through building, through surveying, through what do you call those? The next set of contractors down, the multipliers out, and then who lives there and the money they spend there, and then the businesses that are on the bottom floor, the commercial part of these developments, if they are built, all the jobs that will go there. I just can't. I see it as a win-win. We may have to give up a little bit on the front part, but I believe it is the only way that Salisbury's accessible base starts to turn a corner, and we start to say that we're truly going to evolve as a large city. I believe this much. I believe that we can choose to either be Southern or Northern.
And what do you mean by that?
And I mean that there are certain things that I believe, that come, from municipalities and places in the South where this sort of poverty is just sort of accepted. I don't want the government involved. I think that the government is evil. I think the government is bad. I think that we have to decide to be progressive. I think we have to decide to be a little bit more northern here and metropolitan. This city is not going to continue to sprawl out in the middle of nowhere. It's done doing that. Our comprehensive plan says we stopped doing that. So what's left? And if we're not going to go further out, which I don't believe we should, then it is the urban core that we have to take care of. And I don't want us to make the same mistakes that every large city up and down the East Coast in the last 300 years has made with let's spread out, spread out, spread out. We've got to get more. If we get this land over here, then that'll support the revitalization of the core. That's never happened. That's never happened. So let's take care of the core right now, and it will take incentives to do that. And I think we have many on the table that I think a developer is going to be willing to take us up on.
Why do you think it is that downtown has not moved in this direction in the past? I mean, there have been efforts. I mean, I mentioned a few of them with closing off portions and so on. What is it? What was there a dynamic there? I mean, there were lots of business folks who sat on the city council and were involved and so on. And
I believe
what do you think? It's
without calling out names.
Yeah.
I think that we have a lot of people who have a lot of agendas downtown. And the people who are going to say no, and I may call out some names on, those people who are going to say no off the cuff no matter what, they're going to focus in on one parking space and what that one parking space is worth, instead of looking from 30,000 feet down and saying, if you take a look at redoing this so that there are more people living here, more places to shop, more places with the opportunity to become a destination that you were discussing before. If those people take this, if they are able to lead this discussion, and they will yell and they'll scream and you'll put your microphone in front of their face because it'll be fun. And you'll never push back on them the way you've pushed back on me today and asked me tough questions. You won't do it. You'll find somebody who wants to make an issue of one parking space on parking lot number 1. And if you let them do that, the media lets them do that, and the discussion becomes about that parking lot instead of 750 people living here now and 300 people working here and a 100,000 square foot of commercial space and a 25% drop in our impervious surface. If you let the debate be about that parking lot, then this may not happen. So actually, I say it's up to you.
The reticence or the inability to deal with downtown doesn't just go back 10 years since I've been here.
Yeah,
It's
you
20,
look at the 1980s,
40.
You look at the 1980s study and you think, how did they not get it done?
That's right.
How did they not get it done? And I'm not sure, because many of those people I know, many of those people I respect, many of those people they have different political views than I do, obviously. But I think they've already gone. I think they're gone. I think they've fled. And fine. Honestly, you take a look at some of the businesses that are down there now, and you take a look at Sushi, you take a look at Roadies, you take a look at Marabella, the pizza place, you take a look at Main Roots. They want more people. They're not interested in their parking space. They're interested in making money, and theirs is a long term. The difference is this. I'll tell you what the difference is that I believe that all those other plans, people only looked at the short-term gain that they were going to get for their particular interest. I believe that there's a whole new generation downtown that are interested in a long-term, sustainable change for the area. And those people I can name. All those people who own those businesses that I just mentioned. I think that they're in it for the long haul, and I think that they're going to bring some of the old codgers along with them.
Do you see then a renewed sense of energy from the business community for what's happening now, particularly with the idea that some of the parking lots, or what's that?
I think that if you take a look at, we call him Uncle Ernie because he's such a great guy, Ernie Colburn from the Chamber of Commerce. The way he's working with us to make us better business partners for the business community, what we've done with the EDAT presentation that he did of the county and the city working together with him, I think they are all on board. I think there are a lot of people who are waking up to the possibility downtown, especially business owners, that the building that they own could quite possibly be in 10 years worth a whole hell of a lot more than it's worth right now. I think you're going to see some larger companies begin to move in, and I will definitely send you those press releases when those happen, because I think that, when you take a look at the number of people who are visiting the library each day, if you take a number of people who come into the Art Institute and Gallery over the course of a month, you take a look at what happens to our numbers of people who are eating downtown, coming downtown to socialize, all those numbers are up. And I think it's partly Third Friday. I think it's partly the 3,300 people on the plaza for downtown. We've proven if you build something that people want to come to. I was in the parking garage almost the entire time. Me and D. Kelly in the parking garage downtown, almost the entire night of New Year's Eve. And people ride in there. All of these people who a fair amount of them had not come to downtown before, but they were like, hey, I don't have to pay $80 a couple to get a half a glass of champagne in 17 minutes to get waited on at the bar. There's going to be a ball drop downtown. They rode into the parking lot. We stopped them. I handed them a Bury sticker for downtown Salisbury, and they were like, you're not going to charge me? I was like, no, it's free. And so many of them were like, well, what would you charge me? I was like, 50 cents an hour, because that's what it is. And they were like, why would you ever complain about this parking garage? I just think that, again, it's a different generation. It's a different set of people who we need to attract. I think we're already doing that. I think you're seeing an amazing amount of people riding bikes downtown, walking dogs downtown. We've got young people talking about playgrounds downtown, changing some of our playgrounds around to be friendlier to younger children. There is a group of pioneers that if I could give some sort of award to, that people, would take seriously. When you think about the Ryan Weavers, you think about the Nate Johnsons, you think about the Julia Glanzes that are living, working, investing in downtown. You put them on top of the Jamie Heaters who do Third Fridays, and the Brad Gillises and Joey Gilkersons who are in there. You put them on top of some of the lifelong people who've been down there. I say this. I say go ask Bill Otis what he thinks is going on downtown, because he would be the gauge, because he's seen it be an incredibly busy place to a place where there was nobody there to a place that's coming back. And I think his responses would be that there's been a shot in the arm over the last 5 years. And I think it's because the political leadership has said, this is what we're going to do. And we've had elections and people have decided that we were right.
So when you leave office, whenever that is,
what dear Lord, are we going to talk about that?
What do you envision?
2015, Don. It's still 22 months away. You and WBOC aren't going to get your dream anytime soon.
No, you're much fun. You're a lot more fun than that. What do you see as when you leave office, in terms of what you want for downtown? Mm-hmm. What will downtown look like as compared to what it looked like when you?
Well, I think the tangible, I can touch this, the kinesthetic. Wow, tangible, kinesthetic. Wow, that's a teacher for you right there, isn't it? the hands-on, the hands-on thing is that there needs to be another building. There has to be buildings built down there before I go. I mean, we haven't had a new building since 1981, and I'm pretty sure they were the Dr. Finnegan's buildings on Market Street at the other end of the Market Street parking lot there. So new buildings. The helping the committee do New Year's Eve was absolutely one of the most incredibly satisfying and stressful things I have ever done before in my life. So that getting done. Roadie Joe's opening, cellar door opening, the firehouse getting sold. I think there's already enough for me to I guess one would say, write the biography of my time here. But I'm not done. And I don't think Council President Day is done. And I don't think Shani Shields is done. I don't think Laura Mitchell's done. I don't think Tim Spees is done. I don't think they're done. I think that they believe that we can do more and that we have to make these tough decisions and take some of these public hard knocks that are going to come about one parking space sitting at the top of parking lot number 1. Because in the end, the naysayers are going to say no matter what. The naysayers are going to say no if I raise their taxes, no if I lower their taxes. We already know who these people are, and they're going to show up again. The naysayers are going to show up. There's going to be some in the business community who are only thinking about a short-sighted profit that they can make right now instead of a long-term sustainable look. All this is going to be above board. All this is going to be done in the light of day. All of this is going to happen, and it's just going to take votes. The council is going to have to decide to go into a contract with a bidder on one of these parking lots to do these to do this development. I'm going to have to work like a dog at the state level to get us open to sustainable communities funding, Department of DHCD, Housing and Community Development Funds, all of those things. I'm going to have to work with our legislators, both Republican and Democrat, to try and make sure that the state is on board, because we went and got all these designations: sustainable, enterprise, historic, and I don't know what we've done with them. You know what I mean? We do a really great application and we get the designation and everybody's, rah, you got the designation, and somebody from the state comes and we cut a ribbon and something or another happens. And then we don't do anything with it. This is the plan you do something with. This is, when you talk about this infill construction, this is exactly what the state wants us to do already on existing water and sewer that isn't polluting the bay anymore.
We've been speaking with Mayor Jim Ireton, Mayor of Salisbury, and about downtown revitalization.
It's coming. It's coming.
Oh,
it
you
is
promised
coming.
me, right?
It'll be. You and I will be standing there, Don, and there'll be a crane, and it will be very loud, and all you will hear is me cheering in the background. I probably won't even be able to give you an interview, because once the first crane starts, once Feldman's is done and the library is done and Ethan Allen is done, we're not going back. We're not going back to the same old arguments that we have done for the past 30 years. Our citizens have spoken in 2 elections.
You've been listening to Delmarva Today. I'm Don Rush, and thanks for listening.
This has been Delmarva Today, a production of Delmarva Public Radio. Chris Rank produces and is our audio engineer. Don Rush is your host. For podcasts, visit our website, delmarvapublicradio.net, or subscribe to the Delmarva Today podcast in iTunes. Delmarva Today can now be seen on PAC 14. To view the schedule, visit the Daily Times or visit pac14.org.